Interview I dug up for you guys is an interview with Mary Green, the lady who claims to know everything about Bigfoot in Tennessee.
Well, I first got involved when I moved to Tennessee in 1960. I lived in Dotson's Chapel community outside of Rickman. I soon began to find out that there was something in the woods where I lived that was most unusual. The very first thing I heard was just a wailing noise I couldn't identify. It sounded like somebody in horrible pain and very mournful with huge lung capacity. When we were clearing off our land to set our first little trailer on, out there burning brush real late at night, it wailed and wailed. And my mother-in-law told me, well, maybe that was the neighbor down there, woman sick. But things began happening. I began to see these shadows passing my window, my doorknobs turning, breaking into the house itself. I mean, actually busting our doors open. Something coming in our basement, and I would hear the door opening, hear something heavy walking across the floor. There were definite sightings by my daughter and her aunt when they were picking blackberries, about an 8 foot tall, scary looking, very human-like, and they dropped their bucket and ran. My brother-in-law had one rock his car late one night. I would laugh at my children when they'd say, well, there's something down there in the woods watching me. I didn't want to believe because it was so way out there. And this continued on until all at once, I hate to say it, but my mother passed on, and they sent a small amount of money, and I bought a computer. And all at once I was looking for this website service and it was called Bigfoot.com, and then I started seeing all these websites about Bigfoot, and I began to read, and I said, oh my gosh, those things happen here. Is this a Bigfoot? So that's when the search really started. I had gotten a lady to go with me. She was a spelunker. She wanted to investigate some caves and where I was looking for tracks at, so we hiked up there together, and I found my first track. I wanted to go back and cast it, and my son John went with me, and we made 2 attempts to get to the area where the track was. The first one we heard something breathing heavily, crashing, whistling, and I knew by that time that the Bigfoot whistled to each other as a form of communication. And we had to come back down, and then on the way back up the other way, then we actually John, he saw the Bigfoot first and was stuttering, and he turned around and told me, he said, Mom, there's a Bigfoot up there.
The entire store's on sale now through...
They do it as a family affair. Usually they live in family units. They have a female, 1 or 2 females, mostly just 1 female. And as the adolescent males grow older, they're taught neighboring we call them alpha males, get together, and they locate the deer. They do sort of like a tree knocking to herd them to the next Bigfoot, and that Bigfoot gives chase, and they wear it down, and finally the last, which is usually the main guy, he chases them. They run on all 4s, believe it or not. They walk upright beautifully, but in short spurts they can really run on all 4s. But they're real picky. It seems like they only want the soft tissues inside of the deer, like the liver mainly, because it contains a real high amount of vitamins, and that for such a massive animal, they would need that kind of concentration in their meat. If they are having something going on, like they're trying to hunt for their food, they don't want you there. I have been rocked. My poor little car's been rocked. Many times. They let you know if they don't want you around. They are just masters at hiding, and you may go and sit all night and not hear or see a thing. But then again, we have a lot of people that just blunder into one. One specific case in Monroe County, Tennessee, near Madisonville, I can tell where that one's at, because I co-authored the granddaughter of the man that have habituated a family of Bigfoot down there over a period of 50 years, and we wrote a book, 50 Years with Bigfoot, Tennessee Chronicles of Coexistence. To this day, whenever the scientists want the hair, we just go get it. The minute you let them know through talking verbally, I mean just normal talk, and say, oh, I know you're there, then once they know that you're aware that they're there, you might get some reaction of some type, maybe a scream or a whistle or something that'll make you stop and go, But the ordinary person is not going to the woods or out camping to look for Bigfoot. Well, in areas where there's a fairly good population of people, there's no Bigfoot. The most normal sighting is crossing the road in front of you at night. That is the biggest majority of your sightings. And they say, well, this Bigfoot climbed up on my house and sang to me, then I wouldn't. I know there's something bad wrong there. In the South, we call them Bigfoot. They have an extremely big foot, and they show from 3 to 5 to 6 toes. So we think there is maybe the genetic pool is narrowing because of that. And in Florida, we have the skunk ape, which is still smaller. They range from 6 to 7 foot tall, very thin. But the odd thing is they have more abundant, longer hair. It's also hollow, they have found out, like the polar bears. So there it's insulating, so it doesn't take a real heavy hair cover for them. Their feet, or just that, they're giant, they're big. The youngest up to the biggest, they'll range in size from 8 inches long all the way up to, we've had 22-inch long tracks. We found a 20-inch long track up here in Putnam County. They come in all colors and sizes and styles, and they have different colored eyes, just like humans do, different color hair. We have reports from white, silver, gray, a lot of reddish hues, browns, dark browns, black. The females are from about 6 to 7 foot tall. The males are always much bigger. They run from 6.5 all the way to, we've had reports of 12 foot tall, which is horribly tall. They are a race of giants. I mean, it's clearly anything that tall is giantism. There is some things physically that is difficult for them to do because they have such large hands. They're from very thin to where they look like they're starved to death on up to being just the epitome of a bodybuilder. They're intelligent and they're cunning. They have very quick tempers. They have family units, and of course the males will travel up to maybe 50, 100 miles a night, if they want to, into other areas. They require a lot of territory, and I believe that we're encroaching, further and further into the areas that they can live in. I think that they've evolved with nature. They're masters of the forest, and especially of the night. The Native Americans, that's documented very well how they lived with these creatures. They called them men, and hairy, stinky tribes that stole their women. I mean, that's been written about for years. So the earliest recording was when the Viking Eric, when he first came, he described a tall giants, hairy, stinky people, a real powerful group of people. And then as they began to settle more in the Pacific Northwest, then we got more information from the Indians. The Stick Indians especially have left a lot of information about how they live peacefully with them. And then when you go up into Vancouver and British Columbia up in there's a wealth of information. That's where you get your Indian Bigfoot relationships recorded mostly out through there.